Hello everyone, welcome to IMPRINT IS. We're looking at the IMPRINT Explain series, and today we're going to discuss the electoral bonds. Okay, so in this video, what we'll be talking about. What happened? We talk about what are electoral bonds. Then we talk about how there has been a controversy recently. Prashant Bhushan talking, how Modi PM ordered illegal electoral bonds, sale before vital state polls. Rajdeep Sardesai, talking about electoral bonds must be reopened to scrutiny. So those kind of things, right? So whether that's the case, let's look at it. Now, what is the electoral bond scheme? So what happened was, right on 2nd of January. So actually the discussion was in the budget of 2017, right? And in that, Arun Jaitley actually introduced the scheme for the first time. Now, what was the provisions? So as per the provisions of the electoral bonds, may be purchased by a person who is a citizen of India or is incorporated or established in India. Now, this kind of opens it up itself. Now, the first thing, right? When you read this, you say, okay, if I'm a citizen of India, right, fine. If I'm incorporated or established in India, so it means that any foreign entity in some ways can also do it. Yeah, right. And we're going to talk about this more later in this video. A person being an individual can buy electoral bonds either singly or jointly with other individuals. So this is also very interesting. Okay. Then only political parties registered under Section 29A of the Representation of People Act 1951 and which has secured not less than 1% of the votes polled in the last general election to the House of the People or the Legislative Assembly of the state shall be eligible to receive the electoral bonds. Now, obviously, there's a debate whether this 1% thing is discriminatory or not. Then the electoral bonds shall be encased by a eligible political party only through a bank account with the authorized bank. Then, very interestingly, for the first time ever this happened, SBI was authorized to issue an in-cash electoral bonds, and this was actually opposed by the RBI. We will talk about this later. It may be noted that electoral bonds shall only be valid for 15 days. So this is really interesting from the date of issue, and no payment shall be made to any pay political party if the electoral bond deposited after the expiry. So only for 15 days, right? Electoral bond deposited by eligible political party in its account shall be credited on the same day. And this is other feature of the scheme. Now, please try to remember this. This can come as an objective type question, right? So this is something which, or even a mains question, right, for UPSC. But even if you are not really into preparing for civil service, this is something very interesting. Now, why is it so interesting, right? So interestingly, what happened was the electoral bond scheme was opposed by the CEC, right? And interestingly, the finance ministry brushed aside objections, including that of the law ministry, and that this is what the RTI query by Anjali Bhardwaj shows. So, law ministry repeatedly objected to the finance ministry stipulation that political parties must have 1% share in the Lok Sabha or state assembly in order to be eligible for this scheme, right? And documents viewed by the Hindus show that law ministry recommended imposition of 6% vote share, which is similar to the requirement for recognized national parties or the removal of the vote share requirement entirely. See, either you have the same as for recognized parties or removal of it. CEC also objected to it, and political parties themselves were not consulted. Okay, so the idea being that either if anybody should be allowed to get electoral bond, it should not just be somebody who was recognized. That's one problem, right? And that is something that there has been a discriminatory nature, and the law ministry thought it would be challenged in court and so on. Now, what has happened yesterday, right? So Congress has charged PMO with bribery bonds, and it seeks details. Now, a scathing attack happened on Wednesday, that is yesterday, and he called political bonds a political extortion. And these bonds were bribery bonds that resulted in money laundering and destroyed the transparency of political funding, right? And there were reports directly, related to the PMO. And what were those? Obviously, we'll talk about that in a bit, right? File noting query have shown that a case PMO himself asked the rules to be changed. The whole scheme rests on three premises. The donor's identity is completely hidden. The political party doesn't have to agree the name of the donor, and there's no limit how much a donor can pay. Right. So now the problem is this is something of it's very difficult for us to believe that SBI which is totally government owned, right? So let's say if I'm a SBI manager, right, and somebody from the PMO calls me. Let's not even go into that much, right? Somebody even from any ministry, finance ministry, calls me and asks me the details of who bought which serial number, and I don't think so. Any manager has the guts to refuse this. So it seems as if this was done just to have active money laundering in the name of transparency and accountability. Uh, what is obviously the Congress also has talked about this, that the Congress, the finance ministry lied about the election commission's objection to electoral bonds in Rajya Sabha, right? When an MP had asked if the election commission had objected to electoral bonds, the former minister of state for finance has lied about it, and this happened. So this is the problem, that when you lie in the house itself, how is the scheme relevant anymore, or and there is also a problem that obviously people say that this is just to legitimize bribery. Now, why do they say that? We'll talk about this. So, very interestingly, was is the case is that in this case, what happens is Q1, Q2, Q3, so Q4. For 10 days every year, that's in every quarter, so January and so on, right, till October, in the every quarter, that is, the first 10 days of every quarter. What happens is that they ask, that you can buy bonds. Now, what happened was, last year, right? That is, in Rajasthan, we had polls in December, and we had in MP and in Mizoram, right? We had polls in the month of December. That is December 18. And what happened was BMO ordered illegal, well, not maybe totally illegal, but they opened the window, right, twisting the rules again for 10 days, right, because in October electoral bonds were supposed to be issued, but they issued them even before, in November, so on, right. So this was maybe not illegal, but a change of rules, I would say. Right. Then obviously electoral bond seeking secretive funds. Modi government overruled RBI. Uh, Arun Jaitley just took hours to dismiss RBI's warning on electoral bonds that it could funnel money into politics and destabilize the Indian country. Documents show that. Let's look into that, whether that's true or not. So this is on 30th of January 2017, and this is just a day or two before the union budget, I think, that they right. So there's a case in which there is amendment of the RBI Act 1934, right? So what does it say? It says, please refer to an email dated to January 28th, 2017, forwarding a proposal to amend Section 31 of the RBI Act 1934 so as to enable scheduled banks to issue electoral bearer bonds as a mode of donation to registered political parties. We have examined the proposal and our views as follows. Now, first problem they've said. It says that the move will result in multiple non-sovereign entities being authorized to issue bearer instruments, such as the mechanism militates against the RBI's sole authority for issuing bearer instruments in cash. And bearer instruments have the potential to become currency, and if sizable quantities, can undermine faith in banknotes issued by the central banks. And amending Section 31 of the RBI Act would certainly, undermine a core principle of the central banking legislation, and doing so would set a bank precedent. Um, Even the intended purpose of transparency may not be achieved, as the original buyer may not necessarily be the actual contributor to the political party, as the bearer bonds are transferable, right? And who actually contributes to the political party might not be known. So what does that mean? It means, let's say, if I have white money and somebody else wants to pay somebody, let's say, political party, right? So I can buy in his case, right? And I don't really need to, be the person. Yeah, it can be the case even in the Pakistan. ISI can buy, bonds. If somebody in India is willing to buy, in this case, you can actually make a shell company and just launder. And then obviously, while the person entity buying the bearer bond will be know your customer, the identities of the intervening entities persons will not be known, and this violates the principle and spirit of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So they talk about the fact that this is a violation of the money laundering. If it is a intention that the person entity buying the bond is expected to tender it to the political party, such intention must be established by normal check, demand draft, or electronic or digital mail. So they're saying let's do a digital mode. Why not doing this? There's no special need for a bearer bond. That too by disturbing an established international. There's nobody anywhere else this happens. So this is a unique case that we have this, just like demonetization, I might say. We are therefore of the opinion it is not advisable to amend Section 31 for the sake of providing a formal mechanism for persons and entities contributing to political parties when existing modes can easily be used to achieve the same objectives and purposes. And this is the CGM, right? And even Urjit Patel basically does talk about this. Urjit Patel basically talked about the fact that it would, the gains of demonetization, right, which was, money laundering was reduced, would be totally be impacted by this. Okay, so that's it. So let's try to go through the objective type question. So look at this one. Consider the following statements per electoral bond scheme. Number one, all political parties are eligible to receive funding through electoral bonds. Number 2 point, electoral bonds may be purchased by a person who's a citizen of India or incorporated or established in India. Number 3, only SBI has been authorized to sell these bonds. So which of the following are correct? So as you know, first is incorrect, and the rest I think we did cover, right? So answer is 2 and 3. Okay. Let's look at the main type of question. So question would be like this, that many legislative changes have occurred with respect to funding of political parties in recently, but many challenges still exist with regards to transparency in electoral funding. Discuss. What do you think about the state, whether state funding of election would help in addressing these challenges? So this is two questions, right? This is the first part and this is the second part, right? So there's an answer. Let's see. We've tried to write something for you. So recently, a series of changes have happened for electoral funding to make in more transparency. First is the electoral trust. These were given sanctity in 2013 under Section 25 of the Companies Act. But the problem is obviously by routing political contribution through electoral trust, companies can escape the dislikes of any political party which has not donated. Now, again, this is a problem because you're only having SBI. But anyhow, for the time being, let's take it. Income tax has been act has been amended to limit the anonymous cash donation from 20,000 to 2,000 rupees. But now this is still having a problem because there's no limit to how many 2,000 rupees I can take. Then Companies Act was amended, which removed the cap where corporate entities could contribute only 7.5% of the average net profit in the past 3 financial year. But as soon as this happens, shell companies can be created for this, and this seems active money laundering and bribery, extortion by the government, and so on, whatnot. Besides previous requirement to disclose the name of beneficiary, political parties, companies' profit and loss statements was also done away. So this may be a good step, I would say. These moves were aimed to curb unaccounted money flowing through the political system. Further, Finance Act also allows political corporates to donate via electoral bonds. This measure was taken to infuse democratic processes with white money, and it aimed at check and digital payments showing the identity of donors. Also, the RBI Act was amended, allowing the SBI to issue bonds. Despite this, obviously, there are huge challenges. The problem is the first one. The first problem was that out of the total 6,000 crores, right, 6,000 crores, what happened was the BJP got 95%. So, which is fine. I think most people, let's say, most people would like to support the ruling party, and this is normal. But the problem is that if anyone has given money to the Congress, and if the ruling party can find it out, and SBI doesn't seem the right kind of bank I would really trust, right? So in that case, being under the government, whether they should be able to find out who has paid to the other side as well. Then some of the steps taken by the government are themselves compromising on transparency, right? Schemes like electoral bonds uh, promote anonymity, limit for anonymous cash donations has to be effective without a cap. And obviously, we talked about this. Then political parties are outside RTI. Then there's no limit on the electoral expenditure on each on the party expenditure. There's a cap only for each candidate, and that is also absurd. And to be honest, that's a farce in India. Then obviously, the real problem is this one. Indian companies, including shell companies, which have no business but to channel money to political parties as well as legal entities such as trusts, can now anonymously buy unlimited amount of electoral bonds and quietly hand them over to a political party of their choice to in cash. Foreign company can route money to Indian political parties. This kind of creates a problem in Indian democracy itself. So what can we do? So obviously to overcome these challenges, certain commissions and committees such as the Gupta Committee, the Law Commission, the Second ERC have advocated state funding of elections. They've argued that this will, obviously establish a fair playing field. This would discourage the businessman criminal nexus. It would encourage individuals of public passion to come out and actually contest elections. Remember, most people cannot contest elections, right? Most people who win elections spend more than 10 crores, it's seen to be. Obviously, the concerns, state funding obviously can be, frivolous use of taxpayers' money. How it should be implemented, in what proportion it will be given. There's obviously the case that both winning party always has an unfair advantage over the others. That's another one. State funding should not be implemented with the functioning and finances of the political parties are transparent, right? Then for making electoral funding truly transparent, what is required is reforms at the candidate level at the time of election, but also the political parties. There should be in that fact is that the RTI should be implemented on political parties as recommended by the CSE. Right. So that was our answer. You can also try to write this answer in your own words. I think you can think of a better answer than this, definitely. Right. In case you do write to us, you can post your answer to our Telegram group. We will be posting this PDF there as well. Thank you for listening. Subscribe and like. Thank you so much.